Chapter 3, Leaf and Stone. Izzy felt her stomach jump right up into her eyeballs. She whirled around to see the old woman towering over them. A deep scowl etched into her face. Hen screamed and let the binoculars clatter to the ground. Izzy lunged backward, knocking over the stack of stones next to the mailbox. "I have been waiting for you girls to come around," said the woman, taking a slow step toward them. "Come here and let old Malloy get a good look at you." Hen sprung up off the asphalt like a click beetle and took off running down the road. Izzy scrambled to her feet, somehow managing to scoop up the binoculars and backpack at the same time. She flew down the pavement after her sister, her legs whirling beneath her hair whipping her face. The old woman's voice rang out after them. "Wait, you girls come back here." Dublin rocketed past them, a black blur on the tar road. Izzy didn't dare turn around. She pumped her legs at high speed as they ran down the hill, past the woods, and up their gravel driveway. Even then, she didn't stop until they were safely back in the kitchen, with the door shut behind them. "That was the scariest I've ever been in my life," said Hen, panting and laughing at the same time. Izzy leaned against the pantry door, clutching her stomach. Once she caught her breath, she grabbed fairy and folktales of yesteryear off the kitchen island and took it to the table. Hen leaned in beside her. "What are you doing?" "I want to see if I can find anything written about those stone towers," said Izzy, flipping to the index. "I wonder if there's some kind of magic talisman or a charm or something like that." "Wow, yeah, I bet there are," said Hen, bouncing on her toes. "This is so awesome." "Izzy, isn't it awesome?" "Isn't what awesome?" asked their mom as she walked into the kitchen. On the stove, a pot clanked and burbled, and the room filled with a stewed green smell. "And why did you lock Dublin inside? The poor guy was crying like a baby until I let him out." "I told you," said Hen, sticking out her tongue. "It's Mom's fault we got caught by the witch." "Not mine." "Witch?" Izzy's mom spun around from the stove. "Isabella Dole, have you been bothering that poor old woman after I specifically told you not to?" Izzy glared at Hen. She shut her book and stood up to face her mom. "We weren't bothering her. We were just watching her. She wouldn't even have known we were there if Hen hadn't made so much noise." "Well, you shouldn't hog things all to yourself," said Hen. Their mom began pulling dinner plates out of the cabinet. "She probably thinks we're the worst neighbors in the world. I'll have to take her a zucchini loaf as a peace offering." She filled up the drinking glasses and handed them to Hen. "You two are not allowed to go over there again unless you're with me, all right?" Izzy helped lay out the place settings. Why couldn't Hen ever keep her big mouth shut? Marion Malloy was the one interesting thing Everton had going for it, and now they'd never be able to spy on her again. "I knew I should have gone by myself," she grumbled. "You always want to leave me behind," Hen whined as she carried the glasses to the table. "You're not the only one who wants to have an adventure, you know. You don't have to be so..." Oops. Izzy looked up in time to see a full glass of lemonade tumble out of Hen's hands and right onto fairy and folktales of yesteryear. "Hen, what did you do?" "It's okay, just need to soak it up a little." Hen opened the cover of the book and dabbed at the sticky pages with a wad of paper napkins. "Stop it, you're making it worse." Izzy dropped the silverware. She grabbed the book out of Hen's hands and a soggy ripped page. "Don't look at me," said Hen. "That was your fault." "It's your fault for being so clumsy," shouted Izzy. "And just stop touching it. You're not allowed to come near this book anymore." Hen's lower lip began to quiver. But you said you'd read me Sir Gawain and Jolly Green Giant." Izzy held the wet page against her chest, trying to dry it off. It stuck to her shirt and ripped in half. "Ugh, you always ruin everything. I wish I'd left you behind and let that witch eat you." "Girls, that's enough," said their mom, slamming the butter dish onto the table. "If you two are going to argue, then you need to take it to the other room." Hen shoved her way past Izzy and stomped up the stairs, snot dribbling out of her nose. She shut their bedroom door so hard that it shook the pictures off the walls. Their mom looked up at the ceiling. When she turned to Izzy, her voice was full of disappointment and anger, all mixed together. "Isabella Dole, what in the world has gotten into you? You need to go and apologize to your sister." "Me? What about what she did?" "It was an accident. Besides, it's just a book. You can take those stories of yours way too seriously. You always take her side." "That's not true," said her mom. She walked over to Izzy and placed her hands on her shoulders. "Listen, you know how much Hen looks up to you. It's not easy moving to a new place, and she needs her big sister right now, and you need her too." Izzy rolled her eyes. She needed Hen like she needed appendicitis. "If it's all so hard on her, then why did we move in the first place? I never wanted to live in this town. This house is very special. You know that. Your dad was born here, and you were too, let's not forget." The phone rang. "That's probably your dad," said her mom with a sigh. "Izzy, this move is a chance for all of us to make a fresh start, you included. But that means you'll have to stop hiding behind your books all the time. Okay, sweetie?" Izzy groaned and tramped onto the side porch. The screen door slapped behind her as she flung herself into a chair. The sun had just set, and already the insects thrummed their nightly chant. She sat there a while, plucking the wicker out of the armrest. A fresh start. What a joke. Monday would be Izzy's 10th fresh start at a new school, and she had no reason to expect things would go any better than they had before. Her sister, on the other hand, would make a whole flock of new friends by the time the bell rang. Fitting in was written into Hen's DNA. Somehow, that gene had skipped over Izzy. She twisted a fraying piece of wicker until it snapped off. It didn't matter. She didn't need friends. She for sure didn't need her baby sister hanging around her heels. All she needed was fairy and folktales of yesteryear. But now, the book that she'd carry with her to every hometown lay in a sticky, ruined heap on the kitchen table. Dublin let himself out onto the porch and nosed his head into Izzy's lap. She rubbed him under the ears. "You know, they're more than just stories, don't you, Dub?" "Of course you do. You're on my side." At least someone was. Right now, Izzy wished it were all reversed, that the stories were real and this life was just a nice little fable she could close the cover on whenever her family drove her crazy. Dublin just suddenly swung his head away from her lap. He skittered to the edge of the porch, barking loudly at the front yard. He must have smelled a rabbit or a skunk. Their city dog had no idea what to do with himself now that he was surrounded by wildlife. "Go on, Dub, go catch it," said Izzy, but the dog wouldn't leave the porch. He just kept yelping and looking over his shoulder at her. "Izzy," called her mom from inside the house. "Get him to settle down. I'm trying to talk to your dad." "Dub, you are such a fraidy cat," said Izzy, getting up from her chair. "Come on." She jumped down off the porch onto the grass with Dublin falling behind. In the failing light, she saw something cross the yard and head for the trees on the edge of their property. Something much bigger than a rabbit. Izzy hung back within running distance of her house while Dublin bolted out into the middle of the yard, barking at the darkness in all directions. "Dublin, be quiet." As Izzy scanned the shadows, she saw a dark shape cross the bottom of their driveway. She took a step forward, but before she could get a good look, the shape disappeared into the blackness of the road. It moved so fast she couldn't tell what it was. A deer, maybe? Dublin had stopped barking and walked in tight circles, sniffing the grass. "Come on, boy, let's go inside," said Izzy. But Dublin wouldn't come. He stood snuffling at a spot in the middle of the yard. She didn't want to leave him outside in case the shadow she saw was another dog. Dublin would get destroyed in a dog fight. She walked to him and grabbed him by his collar. "I said, come on." But before she could yank him toward the house, something on the ground caught her eye. She bent down and pulled the blades of grass apart with her fingers. It was a tower of 5 flat stones. Izzy picked the top stone off the stack. A single fresh leaf lay beneath it. Izzy's neck prickled again. This was just like the tower she'd seen at Marion Malloy's house. That shadow she'd seen was no animal. Was their neighbor trying to put a curse on them for spying on her? Izzy looked back down at the road just as the lights of her dad's car turned into the driveway. She held on to Dublin while her dad rumbled up the gravel drive and parked beside the house. Her first thought was to run up behind him and tell him all about the stone towers and the shadowy figure she saw. But then she remembered what her mom had said. They would probably tell her she was just imagining things, that she'd been reading too many fairy tales. They wanted her to be normal, to get her nose out of the books. Maybe it was time to give them what they wanted. "There's my girl," said her dad as he shut the car door and walked toward her. He took a deep breath and let it out with a smile. "You and Deb must be out here listening to the sweet sounds of peace and relaxation." His beard prickled her forehead when he bent down and kissed her. "What's for dinner?" "Broccoli surprise, I think." Yeesh. Her dad made a face, then winked at her. "Hey, sweetie, is everything all right? You look like something's on your mind." With a flick of her toe, Izzy scattered the tower of stones. "Nope, everything's perfectly normal." Then she followed her dad into the house with Dublin at her heels.